So you've said before that because of your Iranian heritage, growing up in Israel, you felt like a foreigner. And I
Yeah.
wanted to just unpack this idea a little more. So could you tell me what went on in your home as a child that made you feel this way?
At some point, I got really sad and confused by the fact that I felt foreign in my own country. And again, I couldn't even say that, oh, I feel foreign. This is why I said I just felt that the whole is you know is opening my heart, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I'm trying to make it full with more information about my past. And then when I was a teenager, of course, everything I did with my arts, like theater, high school competition, or singing, always I put my heritage inside my art, and I felt that I know better when I sing about it, when I write about it, when I when I put it inside my play, when I was a teenager. But at the same time that I really wanted to know more, I ran away from it because I was shy about it. I did not want my friends and my neighbors to hear my parents speaking to me in Farsi because of their very thick accent. I did not want to answer in Farsi. And I actually felt that they're neglecting their roots to come forward and to be the Israeli people that they want to be. Um, so I made a agreement with myself for a couple of years when I was a teenager that I'm not Iranian, that I'm neglecting my roots, and I did not want to hear any sound of Iranian music at all. It was bothering me. It bothered me so much that when they went to, wedding and parties, and of course each time it was the same playlist of wedding and party, it was so boring to me. I did not go. I did not want to participate in this Iranian festival. um, Even trying to cook at my own home, like Italian food, and neglect the Iranian food, which is the best, of course, in the world, I think. So many agreements that I had to myself because I wanted um, to embrace myself and um, to take care of myself. I did not want it to be hurt again about the fact that I having this hole in my heart.
At what age was it that you sort of had this, I guess, epiphany that you shouldn't be rejecting your roots?
It is so complicated. I cannot put the finger and say, oh, this was the point. I just can say that I had like double characters. From one hand, I was the, Iranian girl, good girl, who's obeying and doing anything with her Naz, which is like Naz. It's the name of my first album, Naz. It's like the Iranian way to behave, like a little girl or a woman, in a good way, in a shy way, in a polite way of getting what she wants in a very, very specific way. She's fragile and she's determined at the same time, but she has to behave like this. So in this Nas behavior, I was at my own home, and outside I was like a wild artist, like Israeli. Um, and I felt like I'm switching identities, and I was very confused about it. And I went to acting school, and then I got my first movie outside of Israel, and I was in Los Angeles for a film festival, and they invited me to participate in the film festival. And then I felt that that was the point that I understand that I'm going to sing in Farsi. It happened to me like a car accident, like a boom. It was like I thought I'm flipping out. Of course, I went to visit a family that I had there in Los Angeles, which I call her Teherangeles, because there are actually literally, it's not an expression, there are a million Iranian people in Los Angeles. It is crazy. And I found out so many Iranian family there that I got very enthusiastic about it, because I said, okay, it is the first time I feel Iran that I don't know, and I long to Iran that I don't know. I cannot visit, unfortunately, Iran. How much, you can talk about this complex, two complex countries, watching TV and seeing the opposite of what my parents told me about beautiful Iran, beautiful culture, theater, cinema, great views. All I've ever seen about Iran in the television is a bad, bad, extreme regime and muted women who are not allowed to sing since the revolution. No arts, no culture, no beautiful views, only people who's fighting over their freedom at the streets. So the first time I could actually sense Iran that I don't know, I went to the food markets and to the restaurants and to visit my family. And they're so successful, the Iranian community who arrived to Israel are pretty much, simple and poor. So most of them, some of them are doctors, and they're all very educated, well educated, and good people. But my family in Los Angeles, they went for the bling bling. They did diamonds and real estate, and suddenly I'm in Santa Monica and I'm Beverly Hills and I'm Rodeo Drive with them, and they're so full of luxury life and money. I got dazzled. So the day that I actually explored the Iranian neighborhoods, I find out that there is a long, long street with lots of music shops. And I started to dig in and I started to collect music. And, it was a period of 3 years that I did back and forth Israel and like Los Angeles and Tel Aviv. Um, Behind the scenes stories that I got a good agent and manager in Los Angeles and great agency, and I started to work there. But I did not want to leave Israel, so I was, back and forth for 3 years, which were incredibly beautiful life. But this hole in my heart even got bigger because I was so close to the Iranian culture for the first time that I flipped. And I remember that I quit at some day going to like 3 auditions a day. And I called my manager and I said, I'm not going today because it's too boring to be inside a room full of beautiful actors, maybe talented than me, looking like me. And they're all, they all want to get the same role. So it's not for me. It's not fulfilling me. So I I was doing this, calculation with myself, like what I want to do. Should I go back to Israel and continue with my very nice career? I did movies and cinema and theater, and I had 2 records in Hebrew. What should I do? And suddenly I felt that literally a baby is falling inside my arms and asking me to sing her in Farsi. And I never sang in Farsi, never, ever. Again, I was like backing that off, this Iranian music scene inside my life. Um, and I really thought that I'm flipping out, like something is like a hormone is attacking me with this Iranian hormone, like what's going on? Um, and and I said, no, listen to yourself. You're doing the right thing, because when a tear is dropping into your mind and soul and you feel like you're in love, it's a real thing that happened to you. It's an opportunity to open a big circle of energy for a new life. I felt like I'm giving birth of myself, and this baby is actually myself. And I promised her to do whatever she wanted me to do. So it was like a mission. It wasn't about me, you know. I felt like I'm cutting everything out. I'm telling the theater manager that I'm not going to do any play, and I was telling my distribution and label that I'm not going to sing in Hebrew anymore. And I welcomed them to join me to music festivals in Europe, and they said, "Oh, we're not going to put money and buy flights, and no, it's not going to happen." So I was alone for a while with this idea, but I had the guts to do it because I felt like I'm the pipe who's trying to bring this message to the world.
Was there ever a moment where you felt a bit overwhelmed by it all once you were on your own and having and knowing that you were going to have to pursue this,
Yes,
completely solo? Was there any moment where you thought, "Oh, have I made a huge mistake?"
yes. I can tell you that even now with Zan album, um, it took me a while to understand that I'm doing something that it's unforbidden for them, you know, to record an album, underground album with Iranian musicians who participate with Israeli musicians. Um, Once a day, I was, you know, taking my breath out and saying, "Why the hell am I doing what I'm doing?" Because I'm put them in dangers, and myself and my family and their families. And again, the fact that through the years, I understood that there's so much love between Israel and Iran, and you know, politics are politics. It's not our story. My story is that I love them. I want to visit Iran. I want to meet these people. They became my friends, and I'm writing with the music. So it's about love, and it's the only bridge, you know, to build between these two complex countries. Um, of course, lots of moments which I said, okay, should I stop now because I got a hater messages, or some of them left the project because he was afraid being in touch with me, and some of them pulled the songs back even after we already recorded them, and some of them got back after 3 weeks and asked to use the songs with other names. We had so much ups and downs. It was like a roller coaster. For your question, on a daily basis, I was asking myself, should I continue or should I stop? Should I be normal, or should I be in this danger and have this mission done?
You mentioned the Iran of your parents, how sort of beautiful and cultural and everything that it was. And this was before the revolution. So why is it, do you know why your parents left Iran and why for Israel?
Yes, my parents left Iran because they are Jewish, and at some point they needed to move from neighborhood to the other and to hide the fact that they're Jewish. At the same time, lots of their families left Iran to Israel, and they were always Zionists. They really wanted to visit Israel. Um, my grandmother, she had a big dream to sing, and she was not allowed in Iran even before the revolution. Being an artist there is a bad thing, unfortunately. It's no one is getting this fact in a good way. So my grandmother was trying to escape Iran because she had a feeling that she could sing in Israel, you know. So everyone with his different story tried to escape to Israel. First of all, just to be in this country, in this promised land, and the Zionist dream is coming true. And second, they did not wanted to hide the fact that they are Jewish in Iran, and they did not want to hide anymore. And each one of them wanted to fight for his own freedom. My grandmother to sing, my grandparents, they were teachers. They wanted to have like a good influence on the Israeli side. So many beautiful stories that made them left, you know, and made them do this decision, make this decision. Um, the deal that they did not, they was not aware that they're making a deal with themselves that they're not going to visit Iran anymore, because they arrived before the revolution, and some of my family even had the chance to go there and to visit again, but they did not know it's going to be the last time. um, and sometimes I ask my mother, do you think if you know that you will never meet Iran again, you would prefer to leave? And she said, I wouldn't leave. I really miss Iran. They miss it so much. And you know, even after the revolution, they thought it's so crazy that it's going to change, and they're going back again to visit, to meet their friends and their family, but they, until today, they are not allowed. And I think they don't even believe anymore that it's going to happen, but I believe it's going to happen. And I really, really, really wish to perform there in Iran someday.
I was going to ask, could you sort of explain, I guess, to an outsider like myself who knows very little about the situation there in Iran, um, why was it that you had to work with the musicians you collaborated with in secret?
Israel and Iran are not living in peace, uh, in the most extreme dramatic way. Iranian people are not allowed to visit Iran, and Israeli are not allowed to visit Iran. They're not allowed to be in touch. They have in their laws that if they're in touch with Israel, they're going to jail. Just like that. Of course, they have lots of crazy things that they're going to jail for, and it's crazy. But this is one of the craziest things, that if someone would caught them while they're participating and in touch with Israeli people, that are going to jail. If Iranian person going somehow even from the US to Israel, and he's not Jewish, and he's coming for a visit when he was like in Los Angeles, and then he wants to go to Israel, and he cannot go back to Iran ever. Yes.
That yeah, it's almost incomprehensible.
If I want to visit Iran and buy a ticket from Paris to Iran, I can, but they will catch me. They will catch me. Like, I'm Israeli. No way that Israelis are inside Iran. It's unforbidden, and the other way. Yeah, it's, and I don't know if you know, but I participated in Tehran TV series when I was acting with Iranian actors who actually left Iran 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 20 years ago. And they took a really deep decision that if they are, you know, working with Israeli TV business, and TV production, they are they're not able to go back to Iran ever. And they live in London, in US, like all over the world. They're not living in Iran anymore. So it's a very, very hard fact that I knew that I'm struggling with. I was really, really afraid of someone, you know, will cut them and will do something bad. And some of them I don't know if you remember, but a year ago there was a big explosion in Iran of Soleimani, and they got out of connection. Iran, for almost 2 weeks, they did not had any connection, any wire, any internet. So I lost them during I'm recording the album, and I was panicked because I thought they're dead. I thought something happened to them. My relationship with them, it's like, brother and sister who knows, they had each other but they cannot see each other, and we have lots of love and support to each other. So the minute we agreed that we're going to make this album, it had to be very cautious and quiet and very underground. And we used like the media, but not necessarily normal media. We used Telegram and other application to, to move the file back and forth. Yes, we needed to change lots of time, like identities, just because we were very cautious.
With I wanted to ask you about the titles actually of the albums, because they have very similar sort of connotations, both about women, but also the fact that the word, so like Naz and Zan are, it's a palindrome. It's the same. Yeah. So was that a conscious decision?
I was 8 month pregnant when I was in the studio. I was furious and frustrated. I had this rage pregnancy. I don't know why it was my second pregnancy. The first one was like romantic one. The second was that I was like I could have hurt someone if he was near me. And I was in a very very good year of acting. I played Frida Kahlo in the National Theatre of Israel. It was a dance theater, so I was very physically, artistically happening, and I had my shows, and I had lots of Israeli crowd who arrived to watch me singing in Farsi. It was a big thing for me to bring a new crowd, and to open a new career. Actually, I felt like I was at my top, and then I got pregnant. At 8 months, I needed to quit the theater, the movies, and my shows because I was fat. And it even made me, more angry. And I was sitting in my studio, and I found like some shit that I, started some lyrics, and I started to open these lyrics and write more and more. And it was the first song that opens Zan album, called Zan Bezan. Zan is a woman. Bezan has three meanings. Bezan is sing, woman sing. Bezan is also like give it on the head, like when you roll the dice, and you put them and you roll it, you say Bezan, like bring it on, bring it on. And also Zan Bezan, it's woman inside woman inside woman inside woman. And I recorded this first song with Uri Brauner Kinrot, who produced the album, and he's my co-producer. And I said, this is going to be the first example of calling for the Iranian musicians to work with me. I'm going to release this one, and then I will ask them to work with me. And this song is it's written about how for my pain I'm screaming out that I'm longing to Iran that I don't know. And from my pain I feel like my eyelashes like arrows to shoot everyone and to fight over my freedom. And I ask women to have their own revolution uh, just by singing, dancing, and rejoicing. And that was the first song. And it was Zan Bezan. So it was like that. And then we started to record more and more songs. And I got lots of music from Iran. And I said, naturally, I feel that this is a women album, and I call it Zan. And I write Zan, and flipped and said, "Oh my God, Zan is Naz. It's the second chapter. Everything is going like in a mystery way without any conscious of, okay, let's think about the name of the album. It just happened. And actually, name of the album, it's the most, it's a big, it's a headache because it's very hard to find the name for the album. So I said, okay, this is the sign that this is going to be the name of the album, and actually, it's the subtext and the bottom line. It's the second chapter of Nas. It's peeling off these Nas layers and trying to be the woman that I want to be.
Just changing the subject slightly, I did want to ask about your Jewishness and sort of, I guess, where would you place yourself on the scale?
Good question. I'm like communicating with everything that goes with spiritual, uh, like the name of the part of the week that I was born, and like I know connecting with the fact that like Moses was 42 years in the desert, and this is the name of the week paragraph that I was born. It's like the same path of my story. It's amazing. Um, but only in a spiritual way. I don't know if you know Jewish customs, but I lit candles and I bake challah just with my girls, just for fun. I have faith in myself and in life and with the universe. Always looking for a God or some superhero to save me, but I understood that us women are the heroes. We are the superheroes. Um, Good things that happen with the holidays, but I'm not religious. I'm not taking any, religious customs in my life, but
Sure.
I'm Jewish.
Are there any Jewish traditions that your family does differently to, Israeli Jews?
Oh, it's nice because actually Iranian Jewish customs that we had in my own home, um, I found out because we're a mix of culture. Israel is a mix of culture of Iraqi, Yemen, Polish, all over the world gathered here with their Jewish customs from all over the world. I found out that I love much more being Jewish Iranian in like holidays, in like Kippur days when I'm fasting. I always fast, of course. So when I'm fasting, I love the after fasting drink of the Iranian herbs. Um, and I found out that lots of customs of people around the world became like Israeli customs. Like I don't know if you know falafel. You know falafel? So it's like Israeli, but it's not. It's a Yemen thing. So we're so mixed with food and customs and customs, you say?
Yeah,
Yes. And culture. So sometimes I'm getting confused if it's from my Iranian home or from my Israeli, but I kind of embraced everything together and mixed it. Like I can, you know, um, cook at holidays like very, very Ashkenazi, Russian, Poland food with a very, very Persian food. Like it's very mixed. We're all mixed here. It's like, yes.
Going back to your childhood, what records did you used to sort of sing along to as a kid? Who are the artists that you grew up listening to?
I love, love, love Johnny Mitchell and Sade and so many. Like it can go with Michael Jackson and it can be um, Peter Gabriel, like very mixed one. I can sing to arias and opera, and I can listen to, I sing in a choir, like classic Italian music. Um, it could be 80s modern talking, it can be Sting, it could be Feiruz, like the Lebanon singer Kulthum, and it could be Maria Callas. It's
How did you even discover that wide a gamut at that age?
I have a very good answer for that. Okay, I arrived. I was born here in a hospital next to here, and my parents bought a home in Ramle. Ramle, it's like 45 minutes from here. It's a province. And I grew up there until I was 6. It's a very, Ramle, it's the same thing today since we left at 85. Okay, when I was like 84. When I was 6, we moved to Ramat HaSharon in Herzliya, and it's like 20 minutes north, very close to Tel Aviv, very much similar to Tel Aviv. I was in a shock culture, of course, because suddenly, I was dark, and Ramle, it's lots of like Sephardic people from Yemen, Iraq, and Iran, and suddenly I go from a province to a city which most of the people are Ashkenazi, white. I felt the difference. And at home, again, there was Iranian music, but there was a record shop next to my home. And I actually, there were days on days that I actually missed school just to visit in this record shop. This record shop, vinyl shop, went to CD's shop when I grew up, and I got a very great relationship with the owner and some teenager who worked there for many years. So everything that happened that arrived from the US and Europe, from the world music like Peter Gabriel, Passion, and lots of like world music, Feiruz, and everything goes with like classic pop, Madonna, as I mentioned, Modern Talking, or Michael Jackson, or Johnny Mitchell. He actually collected this to me, but I did not had enough money to buy the CDs and the vinyls. So there was one show each Friday who collected the new music that arrived from abroad to Israel, and I had like a AWA tape. You remember the tapes with the big boxes of the speakers, and I actually recorded on a tape, like small tapes, the shows, and that's the way I got the music. And when I was like 15, 16, I took a bus for the center of Tel Aviv, when there was some person who selling fake CDs of the artists that I loved. So I bought them, and I had like fake vinyls, with a picture of uh, Kate Bosch, but printed in a machine, like in a machine print, like a very, very low-fi plastics, and so that was a story with music. I was so curious all the time with anything that happens. My husband is laughing at me because he's with me for 11 years. There is no one song in the radio that I don't know, and lyrics and music and the bands and the sax and the bass, like all the parts of every instrument. And it's funny because not a while ago I got a messages from Paris and from Germany and from Tokyo, Japan, with people holding my vinyls above the letter L, and like standing, and you see the L, and I just sent it to my best girlfriend, And she said that she has a story that we stood in this record shop, and she always said, I'm not going to be in Lamed. Lamed, it's like in the Hebrew El. I'm going to be in the El. I will be in the world music. I will be out of the this is me talking when I was like 14, 15. So I sent it with the Tokyo and in Paris and more. And every time someone sent me from abroad, I sent it to her. It's a funny story.
You're in the L, officially in the L.
Yeah, yes, it's funny.
So I guess lastly, for those listeners who don't understand Farsi but also don't have the lyrics to hand, what message or feeling do you hope that they will take from the album?
Breaking the walls and fighting for freedom, it's not something that we should wait for. Just being ourselves. It is the thing that will make it happen. I can actually inspired by Iranian women who sings in buses, in train stations, and putting a very big flags on, just singing, just rejoicing. Sing about it, write about it. There are a very powerful group of women who's making the revolution by taking off the headscarves and picturing themselves with the headscarves up. So many beautiful things that people are doing. It doesn't have to be against the law. It doesn't have to be violence. It's just have to be with pure freedom.